What's up? What's up, everyone? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? So, I just want to give my thoughts on. Funny thing is, I need to review this too again because I thought it'd be special if I review it today because it was the 18th anniversary of the last Airbender series. So, see, I'm a '90s kid, somewhat. I grew. I was like born in the '90s, but like my era of television was pretty much from 2000 to like probably like 2007 for like prime stuff. One of my favorite shows, though, ever has always been The Last Airbender. And yes, I do believe it's better than SpongeBob, regardless of how long it's been rerunning on Nickelodeon for how long. I'm probably gonna review both because this I actually watched it with my sister. I watched this show many times, but I just recently watched with it with my sister, who never seen the show. I mean, she's seen bits and pieces of it, but she's never actually sat down and watched the entire story. And I did make her watch the movie, unfortunately. And we'll get into that after I review the series because I want to review that because it's the anniversary. So season one, the tone of the show is obviously for season one is kids. It's aimed towards kids because the main character is a kid at the time, even though he's like 100 years old. Technically, see, book one isn't my favorite season. That would probably have to be the second season, which is book two, Earth. It probably like as a whole, it probably goes like book two, book one, book three, regardless of the tone of how book three was. But on to book one, which is water. When you first meet the characters that are Katara and Sokka, they obviously hate each other because they're brother and sister. And as the show goes on, obviously Sokka has a lot of growth as a person and as a man. And then there's Zuko. His only word in season 1 basically is honor, honor, honor. No, his story arc is obviously the best one of the series, in my opinion. I do think that without without I do think if this is Nickelodeon's best show ever to ever be aired. I do think it's the best show ever aired on Nickelodeon. Book 1, though, you see Aang as a kid basically grow a little bit from that kid to that I want to be like their avatar, like you know how the movie was somewhat at the end. Like and not to mention that movie's still, and sorry about that out, but um book 1 is like it's just for kids. But by the end of the first season of book 1, it's just like, huh, it's it's satisfying. But you know there's a longer journey ahead, and a much tougher journey ahead after book 1 closes. I do think that book 1 focuses around Aang a lot more than the support characters, because it shows, because obviously he is the main character, but obviously it shows how the war has affected the world when he's been gone for 100 years. You see them go on adventures. You see groups. You see groups like Jet. You see groups. I believe that's season 1 of with Jet. I don't remember because there's so many freaking episodes. Um, my point is that you basically see the world's perspective in Aang's eyes, saying that I have to do something. I have to master all these elements. And when that mid season episode happens with the winter solstice, it's like it completely changed the tone and direction of what they're going for. Because leading up to that episode, it was completely towards kids, and obviously it's a show towards kids, but there were so many jokes, just you know with the humor. But like I said, by the end of book 1, it closes out that Aang wants to be the Avatar now. He wants to save the world, but he necessarily doesn't have that drive, I guess. The only job he would have is probably the seeing the world hurting. But let's head into book 2. Book 2 basically Earth. Now, Earth book is book 2 is just my favorite because of how long a wait we had to wait for book 3. You had the basically book 2 ended on such a great note that you were like, what just happened? And how can they save how can Aang save the world after this? Book 2 to me is the tone, like the perfect tone. It wasn't, it wasn't too, nah, that would probably be book 3 who has the perfect tone, but book 2 Earth is like the best because of how many story arcs there are, how much growth the characters have, how much Aang develops with mastering water and air. Well, he's obviously mastered air, but and then you find like you add Toph to the group basically. Like it's just an interesting. It's just like one of my favorite seasons of the series because that cliffhanger. I do think that book 2. I see. I do think book 2 was like the best because of Zuko. And I know. You see how it happens with in book 3, his redemption arc. But the best part of book 2 was seeing the different the eyes of Zuko seeing the what the reality is in the world during the war. Which is why I love a lot of people are gonna say that they love Tyrell's Boss Sing. I love Zuko alone. Zuko alone is the best episode to me in that book 2 because it makes Zuko realize that the Fire Nation are hated. He is hated. His father is hated. His sister's hated. Even his uncle. Even his mother are hated by the Earth Kingdom, by the water, by the Earth Kingdom, the water tribe, and the air. Even though the air gnomes are nomad, they were obviously hated by them. And Zuko alone just helps him realize that how much pain the Fire Nation has brought to the world of Avatar. Every time I watch that episode, it hurts me because of the kid. He gives the kid a dagger that he was given as a kid, and when he tries to give it back, when you realize who Zuko is, he says, "I hate you. No, get away from me." And that's when Zuko realizes, to a degree, that maybe the Fire Nation isn't so good after all, or his honor isn't so like That's not the honor he's really looking for. If you get what I'm trying to say, Matt. Book 2 ends on a great note. Like every episode of book 2, you were like anticipating like everything. You were waiting for next week. You were waiting for the next episode. You were like glued to your seat. And when that two-parter comes on with Crossroads Destiny and the other one, you were like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen with the future of this? Because Aang is stinking, disabled after Azula. And I don't mean to do spoilers, but he's basically disabled, being lightning shocked after he was in the Avatar state, which is like the only thing you can't do. You're very defenseless in the Avatar state. If you freaking die in that, you freaking exist to be no more. My point is that it was such a great cliffhanger because of the fact that you had to wait months back when it first aired. You had to wait months, maybe even a year after that cliffhanger for book Fire to drop. And how it ends is basically like Azula captures the freaking Earth King and Ba Sing Se, which is like legit the entire what's left of the world, at least for Hope. Which is why I don't think book 3 isn't my favorite because at this point, what is left? Book 3 is basically they're just so desperate at this point that they, you know, have to hide and make attacks and stuff. That's what I think of book 2. Book 2 is like my favorite season out of the series. I do think that Tales of Ba Sing Se is probably my second favorite, just because everyone knows the iconic scene of of Iroh crying on the hill, singing "Leaves by the Vine," and it's just like, yeah, I love that episode. Not because of him, because of it focuses on different perspectives in the city for a few months, more than just his episode. But the only reason why it's my second favorite is because I don't like the story. I mean, I like the story. I don't like the story arc with Aang that much. Momo was cool. Sokka was funny, but the rest were just really good. But like, it's still my second favorite, and probably third would probably be Cave of Two Lovers, I believe. Secret tunnel, secret tunnel through the mountain. Secret, 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 secret tunnel. Yeah, and die. Yeah. No, but on to book 3. After book 2, like, if you originally watched this show, you were like, what the bleep? Like, what is going to happen from here on out? You basically just lost the war. But with book 3, I do think that the best episode of the best episode. Well, the best reason of season 3, like the best reason why season 3 was good was because of Zuko's story arc and his redemption arc. I do think my favorite episode of season 3 is Fire Lord in Sozin. That's the best episode. Even though the the 4-part finale was good. I do think at the end of the season 3 that like those 3 story arcs with Aang and Katara and Sokka were all good, but Avatar the Avatar and Sozin episode was the best of the season 3. Book 3 of which was Fire. My sister's never seen Avatar until like we and her just finished it literally yesterday. She's never seen Avatar fully. But after witnessing, she does believe that this was the best cartoon series ever. She loves Zuko's story arc. She loves Katara's story arc more than Aang's or Sokka's. But she likes Sokka's growth as a man and as a person. And what's crazy is she didn't even feel bad for Azula. I somewhat felt bad for Azula because how she ended. We don't even know. See, the worst part about season 3 is that you don't get explained what happened to Azula, and you don't get explained what happened to Zuko's mother, unless you read the comic or the comics. Which is why it's going to be interesting with the new projects moving forward. I wasn't a fan of Korra. I'm sorry, I wasn't. Regardless of what characters popped up, I did like the first episode, but it just got too weird. It just got too weird. I'm sorry. I couldn't even finish it. I'm sorry. The production in it was bad. The art style was bad. I do think seeing, nostalgia somewhat of seeing like the old characters was cool. Like Katara, Sokka, and all them pop up, and seeing that Katara and them had a, son, and Aang had a son. But back to Avatar Book 3. Um, Back to the Last Airbender, which was, with Aang. I do think that Nickelodeon had the rush thing because I think they already canceled it at the time. So they had to push out like a lot of, episodes at the same time. Which kind of sucked. They didn't really explain which is why I guess they didn't really explain. I think they were supposed to make a season 4, which is why it's going to be interesting with the movie projects. But to me, Avatar is the best, cartoon series ever made. And there's a lot of good ones. There is a lot of good ones, but to me, Avatar is the best. Because of the music, because of the story, because of the art style. And because of the characters. Gross. But I have to bring this up. Because it's a part of what did happen in time. A review for the Last Airbender movie. And I know nobody wants to hear this, but it must be done. I watched the movie with my sister before the last two, the play one, the play episode, and the finale, 4-part finale, which was like an hour and a half. But looking at it now, 13 years later, gosh, it's been 13 years since that movie came out. That disaster came out. Looking at it now, people hated it too much. The fans hate it too much. And I know it's an abomination, and I agree. But for its time, it's not that bad. Regardless of like the only problems with it is how they pronounce the names, the characters, and the technology that was used. They tried to force 20 episodes into one movie. It could have done better as a series, which is why I think Netflix is going to do a decent job with their live action version, regardless if it's different with the story. The last Airbender movie, yes, The Abomination, to me, I liked it as a kid, but when I got older, I in my teens, it wasn't very good. But then I haven't watched that whole decade of like maybe like I haven't watched the movie in like I said like maybe 8 years in that time. Ever since I first watched it, which was in 2010, I haven't watched it since then. But looking at it now, it's not that bad for the time it was made in. I would say most people hate it and say that it's like a 1.5 or a 2 out of 10 or negative. To me, actually, from what they did, considering the time period and what they were actually going for, and how much source material they had to push in one freaking film, which was an hour and 43 minutes, it's not that bad. It's about a 5 or a 4. Or maybe even a 6. If you compare it to current Marvel crap. Or current comic book movies. My point is that the best part of the movies were obviously, the Fire Nation. And I like the actors in Fire Nation. All of them are really good. And I know nobody wants me to give them credit for that movie at all. I'm not saying Avatar. I'm not saying the last Airbender movie is the greatest movie out of it ever. It's not. It's not because of how they announce the characters, how the story is built, and the technology at the time. I do think that for what they were going for at the time, it's not that bad. But the problem is, see, the positive things about the film are actually, in my opinion, actually Nicole Peltz and Noah Ring are actually the and mostly the Fire Nation scenes and the actors were the best parts of the film. What was given to them, looking at it now, what was given to them, those scenes were really good, and they were acted done well. The only times that I would say that it was really bad was like, the transitions, explaining backstory, and maybe like here and there was Sokka, but they called him Soka. You don't understand what I'm trying to say? Like it's not as bad as people say it is for the time it was made in. That's what I'm trying to point out. But that's what happens when you don't stick to the source material. They tried to. You don't stick to the source material or have anybody that knows nothing about the. You just put a director behind it that does know nothing about the source material or characters. Cough, cough, Snyderverse. Just saying. My point is that at the end of the day, I love this series. I love this franchise. I'm excited for the future of Avatar. And not the blue one. F you, James Cameron. F you. I just hope that whatever they do with this live action version on Netflix, if fucking Wednesday can actually succeed being a freaking the tone of freaking effing Harry Potter, then why can't freaking Avatar be different too and succeed? That's my case. If you're gonna freaking rip off the freaking show, then go watch the freaking cartoon. Like, fans, please go watch the cartoon if you're gonna complain about it not being strictly to the source material or exactly like the plot and story. They have this new series has so much more support, has so much more love than the original, regardless if it's completely different. They have more money. They have better casting that is diverse to a degree. They have better technology and the most expensive technology and the best technology in the world. And you're telling me you're not excited just because the directors of the original show and the composer already left. But obviously Wednesday is a good show, right? Obviously Rings of Power is a good show. Obviously House of the Dragon is a good show, right? Right, everyone? I really don't want this to like fail, this series. If they give us, regardless if it's a different take on it, I I actually want to see what they can do with it because of the creativity that they did with Wednesday. So all I'm saying is give this new series a chance, this live action version, a chance for Netflix, and don't cancel it because it's completely different. I actually want to see another future seasons. I don't complain. Okay, the only thing that I complain about is maybe my life. Entertainment value is entertainment value. If it has good support, people that love the previous source material, obviously I'm gonna watch it. I do think that the projects are going to be cool with the future, but Netflix better release something today, because if they don't, it's a missed opportunity. It's the 18th anniversary of one of the greatest shows ever created, for one of the greatest cartoons ever created, maybe in the shows, because of how much work was put into it. May I remind you, we're talking about the early 2000s, people. Like, come on. We're talking about the early 2000s. They were still hand drawing it to a degree. They were still printing out papers. Now you have freaking technology where you can animate easily on freaking like iPads now. You can on iPads. You can freaking maybe even animate on my freaking phone right now. It's just ridiculous that this show isn't recognized by a lot of people. It should be. I know its fans have treasured it a lot. I do. I think it's better than SpongeBob. Yeah, I said it. I think it's better than Batman in the animated series, and I'm a DC fan. But at the end of the day, Avatar is, it explores cultures, it explores heritages, and if this new Netflix version, expands upon it, I am 100% on board. Even if the tone is similar to season 3 right off the bat. Even if from what I've heard, they're going to go similar to Game of Thrones or The Sandman. Which honestly, that frightens me and excites me. But they have to sprinkle some humor in there too. The question is where they'll end off, like when they'll stop. I think if you're gonna do, honestly, if you're gonna do a couple seasons, you should probably stop. You should just cover the first 10 episodes and expand upon it, honestly, and halfway through it. That's where I would stop. I would stop at the winter solstice. That's where I would have stopped. But I'm obviously not a director, so we'll have to see what Albert Kim's vision is for this new series. But Avatar: The Last Airbender is my favorite cartoon ever. I might have to buy the book soon to learn how to cook it, the foods. I do have a case now. I have it all on DVD. I'm trying to get me a freaking Appa or freaking Momo or a Funko Pop with Aang. But I am a fan of the show, and most people that have witnessed this show always treasure it because it's a wonderful story. Looking back at it 18 years later, I wouldn't like. I would say, hey, I would still say, hey, this is good. Even from a kid's eye, I would say, hey, this is different. Hey, this is a real story. regardless of what age you are, because I showed this to my father too, and he loved it. He somewhat liked the movie too, and I actually somewhat agree with him because of what was given at the time in an hour and 43-minute film in 20 episodes is ridiculous. But Avatar is the most beloved franchise ever. Avatar: The Last Airbender, my fault, because not the blue people. I do think that Avatar. You don't get shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender anymore. You don't get dedications like it anymore. You don't get a story like it anymore. Obviously, I'm older now, but I've noticed that they don't. You put look, Teen Titans Go is a perfect example of what it is. What modern stinking cartoons are today. You make funny poop jokes, no story. They do go on an adventure. Boom, end of the freaking episode. No story whatsoever. And that's what cartoons are today, unfortunately. It's sad because at the end of the old cartoons, you learn a lesson, or it had a story behind it. It had a meaning behind it. Now, kids today could care less, and that's just what their imagination is. Just sad. It really is sad. But I hope everyone enjoyed my thoughts. Um, like and subscribe. I'll probably be if there's something said with the Netflix today about that live action version, I'll probably come back on and do something about it. But that's probably like a 50-50 chance right now. But stay classy. Stay classy, my friends. And I regret nothing. Bye.